Welcome to the Opt-In Podcast. I am Melissa Franks, your host, and this is where we go from surviving to thriving inside of other people's businesses. I teach you, business professionals inside of companies of all sizes, what it takes to realize the best version of you professionally and personally. And I give you all the secrets to doing this as fast as possible. This week, I am a little bit fired up. So first of all, happy first day of fall. You're listening to this a week after fall has started. So depending on where you are, it is actually fall. Where I am in California, it's fire season, which has been going on for a few weeks. We now are daily checking air quality and having conversations with the small humans in my life about whether or not they're going to be stuck inside all day. But I kind of love the changing of the seasons a little bit. I kind of love the moment where you're like, okay, all the things that come with summer, the vacations and the schedules that are a little relaxed and the sun that never goes down and just all the stuff that comes with summer has been put to the side and we're moving into kind of that final stage of the year. It's my favorite stage of the year because it's the year that Ed Milet calls separation season. And honestly, you can have this at any point in the year, but very specifically, fall or fourth quarter is when people start to slow down. There's holidays and holiday parties and shopping and gift giving and family events and friend events and professional events. And we're all out there doing all the things, but we're not actually doing the thing. We're not actually delivering on value. We're not completing deliverables. I mean, in fact, in the world of technology, some of the biggest companies stop doing development from Thanksgiving to the end of January. They just stop and it becomes just sit back and relax and kind of chill out a little bit period for all those developers out there. So the reason that I love this shift is for, the simple fact that it signals to me that it's time to kick it into high gear, that the advantage that I can take is not slowing down right now. The advantage that I can take is putting my foot all the way to the floor and seeing how fast this car can go. The advantage that I can take is to get ahead of those that I am chasing. Because the fact of the matter is no matter how far you are along in your career, you are always chasing somebody. Always. There is not a single person that has made it to the top. There is not a single person that has finished the race. There is not a single person out there that has come to the finish line. We're always chasing. As long as you're in this professional environment, albeit if you retire, I guess you're not chasing anymore. As long as you're in that, you're chasing something. Even if you're very happy and content where you are, you're chasing more time with your family. You're chasing more experiences in life. You're chasing better balance. We're all chasing something. So this season of separation is one where you can take an opportunity to say, how can I move the needle? How can I get a little bit closer to the next person that I'm competing with? How can I get a little bit closer to my goal? As I was thinking about separation season, and like I said, I honestly, for a variety of reasons, love this period of time. And against all odds, it starts on October 1st, which is my birthday. And if you know me personally, you are now chuckling to yourself because you're going to be saying, I do not understand why this woman is saying that this is a time of year where she gets excited because she hates her birthday. Like, I hate it. I can't stand it. I celebrate my birthday because my children really enjoy cake and gifts and celebrations and all the things. If I could, I would just roll through. Like, it is not a thing for me. It's not something I talk about. This year we'll talk about it because it's a birthday ending in a 5 and I have a thing with 5. So the next podcast we'll record will be just on the last few days of me not having a 5 in my birthday. So we'll talk about that. But the irony is that October 1st for me has been a day that I've always tried to just roll right through and ignore. And it wasn't until Rachel Hollis, so I'm giving a bunch of people credit today. I've already called out Ed Milet, now we're going to call it Rachel Hollis. It wasn't until Rachel Hollis introduced this concept of the last 90 days, which is the last quarter of the year, and a framework that she used to put together, a challenge that she used to put together across a variety of dimensions and for any type of goal, that I realized I was looking at my birthday and October 1st all wrong. It wasn't a day to just skate through. It wasn't a day to just ignore. It wasn't a day just to say, this too shall pass. No, it was the signal of the best is yet to come. And I now have a lot of things that I do around this. And like I said, we're going to talk about this next week. We're going to talk a bit about, me turning this new milestone birthday and all the things. So that's coming. But as I was preparing, because it takes me the month of September to really get ready to execute when we get to October 1st, I was listening to Alex Hormozi, who, if you haven't listened to his podcast, The Game, you should just at least once. He's incredibly brilliant and has done it, right? He has launched the businesses. He worked inside of corporate America. He understands all of the things. And one of the reasons I like listening to his podcast is because his brain and his words move as fast as mine do. So I get 40 minutes of content from 20 minutes of Alex speaking. And so I threw on one of his podcasts this week just randomly, like did not even pay attention to which one it was because I knew that if I just listened, I'd get something out of it. It's just the way that it is. He's got so much free content out there. And so his wife, Layla, also, she does too. So if you don't know who these two people are, even though you're inside of other people's businesses, you need to go follow them and consume their content. They're all over the place. You're going to learn so much that you can apply to your day-to-day. So back to what I was doing. I was listening to his podcast. I was getting ready for the morning. This is a typical normal thing that I do. And he said something and it stopped me dead in my tracks to the point where I rewound it and listened again. And then I was like, did he really just say that? And then I went back for a third time. In fact, this podcast I'm going to have to listen to again. This episode I'm going to listen to again to take some notes because he started talking about beliefs. And if you have been around in the atmosphere and have attended any sort of professional training in the last, 5 years, there's been a ton of concepts or talks about fixed mindset and growth mindset. And then sooner or later, somebody comes to you and starts talking to you about limiting beliefs. And then you have a whole session on how to identify your limiting beliefs and what to do about it. And I'm not trying to make this seem unimportant because it's incredibly important. Understanding what your limiting beliefs are and how to work within them and around them and how to dispel them is incredibly important to your professional and your personal mental health. Not only is it going to help you be more successful, however you define that, it's just going to make you a better human and more confident and sure of yourself by understanding them. And taking yourself and converting yourself to a growth mindset point of view, if you can do it, is really important because the world is your oyster versus I'm really limited and can't do anything aside from what I know how to do. There's just a lot of benefit in it. So I do not want to downplay the importance of understanding what a growth mindset is and adopting that frame of reference for yourself and learning how to do that. I also don't want to undermine the importance of understanding what the limiting beliefs are that you have about yourself and about others and doing the work to remove them. What I was listening to with Alex was him talking about this initially, and I was like, yep, okay, well, been here, done that, but I'm sure that we're going to get some good stories, or he's going to tell me something that like kind of adjacent to this will help me in my current season. So I keep listening. And then he tells this story. And he tells the story about a mentor that he had. And he was in a place where he was growing his business and it was growing pretty consistently and everything was fine. And the mentor challenged his thought process. And what the mentor pointed out is that Alex had beliefs that he was unaware of. He had this unconscious belief system that was getting in the way of him seeing what the actual opportunities were, what the actual real life choices he had to make. The beliefs completely covered it up. They were like a blackout curtain on what his world could look like. He had no ability to see it because the thing blocking it was something he didn't even know existed. Whoa. This stopped me in my tracks. Like literally stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, oh my goodness. Why has nobody said this before? Why has nobody been out there doing the work to help you understand what belief structure you have that is blocking you from seeing who you are really in the eyes of everybody else, seeing what opportunities or potential you have if you just saw it clearly, understanding that you can pivot your career or that you're actually more capable than you are, or, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but there are these unconscious beliefs that we cannot see at all, nor identify because they are just intrinsically things that are a part of our mental makeup. And I was floored. And for Alex, in that moment, he was able to see the belief for the first time because he had a mentor that could clearly see what was getting in Alex's way. He was clearly able to see that because he believed this thing, he couldn't see all of these other options, all of these other opportunities, all of these other ways of being and working and achieving results. So he had somebody that knew him well enough and what he was attempting to achieve well enough that could connect the dots and then see what was getting in the way. And what Alex said was as soon as it was said out loud, it was like a no-brainer. He was like, well, of course that's the problem. Of course I believe that. And of course that's not true. And of course, I just need to not believe that anymore. I mean, easier said than done for some things, but it was so obvious once somebody had put it in front of him and he could see it. It was so obvious. It's a little bit like, have you ever watched any of those like cooking competition shows where they're blindfolded and they need to like identify a food by taste? And they can't even touch it. So it's literally just a 1 sense sort of thing. And they go through and some people are really, really good at it and some people aren't. And then when their blindfolds come off, they're like, oh my gosh, of course that is a radish. Of course it is. But why did I think that it was this thing instead? That's a little bit like what happened with Alex, is he had that blindfold on and he was trying a bunch of things, but that blindfold, he didn't realize he had on himself. And so he didn't know what was getting in the way. And then as soon as it was removed, he was like, well, of course that makes sense. Of course, that's what we would do. And then the sky was the limit once he figured that out. He was also really quick to say that it's not a one-shot deal. So it's not you get the mentor, they find the thing, they solve the problem, and then you're cured. There is this series of beliefs, and these beliefs can be defined over time. So it's not like you're born or you're raised with a set of beliefs that you just have to dispel as you go through. You can actually create them for yourself at any point in time, and you can't see them. And they get in your way. They slow you down. They send you off course. And until you can recognize it and sit with it and then determine how to take action, you are stuck. Now, let me tell you, for somebody who has ingested a ton of content and has heard about every sort of management, professional development, personal development spiel there is, this rocked my world at 7:15 in the morning on a Tuesday. Rocked my world. And of course, I was in the thick of things. I needed to get kids to school and do some other things, so I couldn't actually spend time thinking about this. But it sat with me in the back of my psyche, because then I started to ask myself, well, what am I believing that's limiting me? What's getting in my way? What if other points of my career or my life have a belief that I couldn't see, stopped me from realizing what I wanted most? And the more I sat with this, the more examples I found. They were all over the place. It was like a minefield of these unconscious beliefs that I could literally pinpoint and say, I went off track because I believed this thing right at that moment in time. Or I went off track because this is what I believed. Or I took that job where I was miserable because I believed it was good as it was going to get. I mean, I was able to literally sit down and write 10s, 20 different things that I wouldn't have done if I had seen the landscape clearly. Now, I'm going to pause for a second because what I'm not saying is that I regret any decision that I make, any action that I took, any job that I had, any whatever. There are no regrets here. This is a no regret zone as far as Melissa Franks is concerned. What I am saying is that I was able to look objectively at historical events, personal as well as professional, and see how I wound up where I wound up because of what I believed at the time. And the beliefs changed. One belief that would get me into a dead-end job didn't exist 5 years later when I had a different belief that sent me in the wrong direction professionally. So as you evolve, the belief system evolves too. As you have life experiences, new beliefs create themselves, because a belief is just something that you tell yourself over and over and over again until you believe that it's true. A belief doesn't have to be true. It's just something that you believe is true. So it's that internal narrative that you have. It's that your brain has enough evidence, has enough things that it pulls together that it says, based on all of these facts and information that I have, this is true. This is right. This is the thing. And as I was kind of going down this rabbit hole, I realized that what's getting in our way today, what's stopping us from earning the income that we should be earning, what's stopping us from shooting for the promotion, what's stopping us from working less hours, what's stopping us from quitting our job, what's stopping us from starting a business, what's stopping us from joining a board of directors, I could go on and on and on and on, are things that we cannot see. There are things we cannot see. So first of all, here's your permission right here to release your responsibility for making the perfect decision in every scenario. Because you can't. You can make the best decision that you can make based on the circumstances and the information you have available, and in spite of those unconscious beliefs. So first things first is that. The next thing that I would say is that what this highlights significantly is the importance of having mentors and friends that know you well enough to see things you cannot see. Now, I'm going to dive into this a little bit because, as I said, this spans both the personal and the professional. This is a podcast about business. This is generally what we're talking about. But I do want to say that I firmly believe there isn't a line between who you are professionally and who you are personally. You are the same human 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You're just operating in different contexts, but you're the same human. So you have the same set of beliefs. You have the same set of morals. You have the same set of core values. You have all of those things. You're the same person. And the people that know you personally see you through a different lens than the people that know you professionally. So it's important that you have friends that live in both worlds, because your professional friends, those that understand the job that you do, the industry that you're in, the career goals that you have, what it's going to take to be there, what it's like to be in the role that you're in right now, those people don't know you as a significant other. They don't know you as a parent. They don't know you as a sibling. They don't know you as a son or daughter. They don't know you as those things. So that friend that knows you professionally and can speak about who you are as a professional individual can see the beliefs that are getting in your way because they know you in that context. What they can't see clearly is the beliefs that are getting in your way in your personal life. And the opposite is true. So your friends, your ride or die, this is who I call in case of emergency. This is who I'm going to go to for everything personal, are going to have limited ability to transfer what they know about you to help you solve your professional obstacles. And the biggest mistake that we make as humans is believing that if you're my friend, you can provide me objective guidance and mentorship regardless of subject matter or lane that we are in. We just cannot, because that personal friend that you know because you spend quality time and you talk on the phone and you go on hikes and you went to college with, and their friends are friends with their kids are friends with your kids, and all of those things, they don't ever see you operate in a boardroom. They don't ever see what happens with the interactions between you and your cubicle mate. They don't know who your manager is and watch you interact with them. But your friend, your professional friend, oh, they know. And that professional friend doesn't know how you're parenting your children, doesn't know how you show up in times of stress with your spouse, doesn't know how complicated your relationship with your family is from the inside. No, that friend, your personal friend, knows that. So the last thing that you want is to go to the person that knows what you're like in the boardroom and ask them for advice with a conflict with your spouse. They don't know how to help you. They can't see what beliefs are getting in your way. They don't know what the obstacle is. So don't ask them to try to find it, because whatever they're going to find is going to be wrong. Yes, wrong. Absolutely ask them for advice and counsel and to help you see what you can't see in the lane and discipline for which they know you. But don't ask them to cross paths. I mean, you wouldn't ask a plumber to do the wiring in your house because the plumber doesn't have expertise in electricity. They have expertise in plumbing. Bad analogy, but you get my point. Anyway, so having friendships, having one or two close friendships in the various aspects of your life is incredibly important, because if you want to be able to see these beliefs that you can't see, they're your eyes. They're your magnifying glass. They're the one that's going to turn the light switch on. These are your people. And I started this by saying that it also highlights the importance of having a mentor. And I cannot say this enough. To be successful in a career of any kind, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a solopreneur, whether you are an intrapreneur, whether you're just somebody trying to get a paycheck to live their best life possible, no matter what it is, you need somebody that's been where you are and has advanced. You need somebody that's been there, done that, and is now doing more, bigger things. You need somebody who can be a guide, because that person specifically understands what it was like where you are today and what it takes to get to the next thing, whatever that is. And that's why I talk about selecting a mentor is incredibly personal. You need to go find somebody that has the life that you want, or you believe has the life that you want. So for example, when I was gunning for executive inside of the financial services company I worked at, my mentor requirements were really specific. It needed to be a woman. It needed to be a woman who had children. And it needed to be a woman who had children that was married. And it needed to be a woman that had children that was married, that didn't have help until she could afford it. See, what I was finding was that there was a ton of women that were single, never married, didn't have kids. Could find plenty of those. Not helpful, because whatever they did to get to where they are, I can't do. Then there was another subset of women who were married and had kids, and their husbands were incredibly successful. So from the outset, they had au pairs and nannies and like an entire staff literally making the machine go round. So for all intents and purposes, she was a single woman with no kids because she had outsourced so much of that home management stuff, that it didn't exist. And then there was a smaller group of women who were single moms. And maybe they had help, maybe they didn't, but they were single moms. And so when I got specific about what I was looking for, I literally found one person. I'm not joking you. One person. And she was my mentor for years. She was significantly farther along in her career than I was. Significantly. And it was only okay because I, at the time, said, I'd love to get where she is, but I'm also okay not getting that far. I just need somebody that can help me go from where I am to where I need to go and understands the complexities of my life and where I am. And she was really interesting because one of the very first things that she ever said to me, and this will stay with me probably forever, was we were having a difference of opinions in my household around my drive for professional success. And it was a season where I had a bunch of little kids. Like I had just had my third baby. Maybe he was a year old. So 1, 3, and 5, I think were the numbers in the house. And I was gunning for it. I wanted it all. I wanted a big global position. I wanted sky's the limit. Like I was done having babies and I was ready to take the world by storm. And it wasn't a generally accepted next step. And when what you want to do isn't welcomed and celebrated, it gets really difficult for you professionally to show up the way that you want. And she flew into town very, very late. She was internationally based and came in very late and called me. Gosh, it must have been like 10 o'clock and had finally arrived and said, let's go, get dessert somewhere. And so I drove 20 minutes because I lived in a city different than where she was staying to meet with her. And we went to some ridiculous, I feel like it was a Denny's. I live in suburbia. There wasn't a lot open, but we went to some ridiculous restaurant and sat down and ordered dessert. And we're talking, and she just looked me straight in the eye and she said, did you wake up one day after you had your second kid, which is when she had met me, and become a high performer and become driven and not take no for an answer and have to win always? Did you just wake up one day after you had your second child and that was your new identity? And I laughed at her and I said, no, and that would be a really strange time to do it. I said, I have been wired to be a high achiever from the jump, like as a child, as a college student who graduated in under 4 years and worked full time, as, a high school student that took so many advanced placement classes. I actually had a semester of college done before I graduated from high school. I've been a high achiever from the beginning. And so she very quietly looks at me and she says, then I don't know why he's so confused. Because the person that you were when he met you is the same person now. And I don't know why he's expecting you to be different. And it stopped me in my tracks because I had this belief system, I don't know where it came from, that I had to be the perfect mom and the perfect wife and have the perfect household. And that was more important than my desires to be successful professionally. I believed I couldn't have both. I believed it had to be one or the other and that I had to prioritize the personal over. And I did not see it. Every single action that I had coming out of me was based on that belief that I couldn't have both. I couldn't. And it wasn't until she said out loud to me, this is how you are wired. This is who you are. This is how you show up in every single circumstance. And somebody telling you that you shouldn't anymore is just not something that you can accept. And then she went on to tell me how we can do both. And it was like my world was shook because I had resigned myself to the fact I was going to be in middle management forever. It was going to be okay. We were going to make a decent salary and just kind of exist. We're going to tread water until I don't even know when. And all of a sudden, she took that blindfold off, or all of a sudden, she cracked open that door and I saw a really, really different reality. And that was because I had picked a mentor that had been where I was. She had had an exactly, like literally the exact same circumstance in her life after her second child. She only had two. It was the exact same thing. She had the exact same belief blocking her, and because she had been through it, she was able to spot it clear as a bell with me. And that one conversation, that one belief that I couldn't see, that I then saw and could not unsee, completely changed the direction of my career. I'm a C-suite executive now because of that one conversation inside of that one grungy Denny's late at night. Uncovering that one belief that I didn't know I had changed everything. And that is the value of having a mentor. That is why you have them. Sure, they can show you what to do. Sure, they can introduce you to people and open doors. They are there to help you get over the things that you don't even know you need to get over. Just recently, and I think I talked about this in the last podcast, kind of going through this refresh of all of the things. It's something I do annually just to make sure all my stuff is updated and whatever. And I was explaining to somebody how I've spent the last year building these businesses that we're building and how this is going. And when I saw the summary come back to me of what he heard, so the words that I used and wrote down in a summary format, I was blown back into my chair. Because my perspective of what I've achieved in the last year versus what he heard achieved in the last year were polar opposites. Like as far apart as two could be. I don't even have a better way to describe it. And that was because I had a belief that it was taking too long. That as the days were flying by, I was becoming more and more of a failure. I had a belief that I didn't even know that I had, by the way, because out loud, I was not saying that to anybody. I had a belief that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't the right fit for what I'm attempting to do, that maybe I had done the wrong thing. And then being able to see his outside summary, his understanding of what the last year has been like, flipped me on my side. All of a sudden, I realized I was limiting myself because I had formed a belief based in nothing that it was taking too long to reach a milestone. And as soon as I realized that that's what I believed, and I had data to show and prove that that was bullshit, sky is the limit. It completely changed the direction of how I was headed. It completely changed what I was prioritizing. It completely changed my throughput. Because instead of sitting in a place stagnating, saying that my days are numbered, like this is just not going to work out, all of a sudden I realized, holy shit, look what I'm capable of. Are you kidding me? One person did all of that in under a year? Well, heck yeah, I can do this thing that we're supposed to be doing right now. It floored me. But here's the thing. I would have never realized this if I didn't have somebody on the outside tell me what I'm missing. If they were just able to pull back that curtain or take off that blindfold and show me that belief that was getting in my way. Because as soon as I saw that belief that was in my way, I was able to dispel it and then move on and excel. So the point of all of this is that you should absolutely cultivate a growth mindset. You should absolutely have an understanding of what your limiting beliefs are and do the work to remove them, to dispel them, to get unconstrained. Absolutely. What you must do in addition is have a personal friend, a professional friend, and a mentor who, aside from all of the other gifts and benefits that you get from friendship and mentorship, can help you see the beliefs that you can't see. Because those are really what's getting in your way. Those are what are stopping you from taking action. Those are your internal narrative. And once they say them out loud, once you see them, then you can do something. Then you can build a plan. Then you can take further action. If you don't, at some point, you're going to stall. At some point, you're not going to realize the results that you want. At some point, all of those dreams are going to stay dreams and they're not going to become goals because goals have plans. So my call to action for you, my homework to you specifically is if you do not have a mentor, find one. And your mentor will change over time. I don't have the same mentor anymore. I have different mentors and they will continue to change. Go cultivate relationships, meaningful ones, where people are going to be honest with you and they're going to shoot it to you straight and they're going to encourage you and they're going to help you see things you can't see. Spend time doing that, because the best personal and professional development that you can do is side by side with somebody that gets you and sees you and can help you overcome whatever it is that's getting in your way. In the show notes, I'm going to link Alex Hormozi's podcast so that you can go listen to it for yourself, because he tells his story so much better than I do. And maybe it will inspire you or awaken you to see some beliefs that you haven't seen yet. Next week, like I talked about, we are going to be coming back and we're going to be talking about the last quarter of the year, why I love it, why you should love it too, and how we're going to work on it together as an opt-in community. And until I see all of you again, please know that you are wise, you are strong, you are brave, and you are capable. And I believe in you.